Hey y'all, it's Farley with Writer's Edge Podcast, and today we're going to talk about movement. So today I would like to have a conversation about movement of the horse and rider, but we're going to do a little twist. We're going to take it from the ground up. We're going to start with the horse and work our way up towards the rider. But first I want to take a little diversion because a lot of this really is driven deep into the hippotherapy and therapeutic riding worlds. And I just want to take a minute to define those terms for people who are unfamiliar with them, or for people who think they know them, but they might discover some new little differences. So, hippotherapy, it refers to how occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech-language pathologists use evidence-based practice and clinical reason in using the purposeful movement of the horse to perform their therapy services. Hippotherapy can only be done by a licensed medical professional, either PT, OT, or speech, or their assistants. So they are not teaching their clients to ride and use the horse independently. They're using movement to facilitate their therapy. While it is not a special therapy service, because standard therapy, evidence-based therapy practices are being performed on the horse, it is different from therapeutic riding. There is a lot of crossover, there's a lot of similarities, but there are some differences too. Therapeutic riding uses the horse's movement and everything too, but often you find in therapeutic riding, those clients are taught to ride and guide the horse independently or with assistance, and it's not highly trained medical professionals using that through their therapy service. These individuals who perform therapeutic riding are often very well trained through PATH International, which is the governing body for therapeutic riding, while medical professionals, their body of governance is the American Hippotherapy Association. So there are some little sidebars for you. I want you to know that, because if you are blessed enough to have one of those programs in your area, please think about supporting them, as they are often not-for-profit organizations performing miraculous things every day. Just amazing to witness what happens in those barns every day. And if you don't have one of those around there, but feel the need to start a program, then you'll kind of have a head start on knowing the difference and how you can use your position as a horse expert to help facilitate the team. Because let me tell you, we all know it takes a village, but it dang sure takes a big village to pull off hippotherapy and therapeutic riding programs. Now, they are often done at the same facility, and there's a lot of crossover, and clients may move from one service to the other. So there's a lot of crossover, and they go very well together. I also want you to know that as performance horse owners, because as we're looking for alternative careers for highly trained, very well-trained horses, this is often a good option. besides just a general kids horse or trail horse. This can be a very good option if it's the right fit for the program and the clientele and you. So there's our little sidebar and our little education moment for today. Let's get more into what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about movement. So as in performance, we often talk about how the rider looks on the horse, and we don't really take into account that our movement and our horse's movement are so intertwined because we perform the same movements at the pelvis that it is very interesting when you take it from the ground up to look at what's going on. And I'm not trying to make anybody a therapist or bore anybody today, but if you really, I wanted to talk about this today because I'm like, gosh, it's just a total different way to look at things. If you have had riding lessons or have a trainer and you just, they keep saying, bring your right shoulder up or bring your left shoulder back, you're moving too much in your trunk, you just need to straighten up, or, different terms. I think if we start flipping the script here and looking at it from the ground up and how intertwined everything is, maybe that will help click, versus just going, well, you just need to pull your right shoulder back when you do a circle to the left, or, whatever you're struggling with. So, we're going to break it down a little bit. So, the horse's movement, whether the horse is accelerating or decelerating, facilitates our trunk, right? So an easy example of this is when a roper leaves the box. That first stride, those first 3 to 4 strides, as the horse is accelerating faster, it facilitates trunk flexion. It facilitates trunk flexion, which is bending forward. So if you think about it, if you are very weak, or just weak in your core, in your abdominal muscles, you're going to fall behind the horse. You're going to get further back. Our bodies are amazing because they will find a way to get the job done. As we figure out, we're falling back, we're falling behind. Sometimes compensation comes in over flexing through that. So if you think about a roper leaving the box, accelerating towards the steer or calf, sometimes if they don't fall behind, they will get too bent over, too forward flexed, and won't get up into the correct position to get their tip right to throw the rope. So, on the flip side of that, deceleration of a horse facilitates trunk extension, or the trunk moving backwards. A perfect example of this is a reining horse stop. If you've seen that not go right, rider get their timing off, their feel balance off, then they will be backwards a little more past the point of vertical, behind the point of vertical in their stop, which will be unsettling to the horse, get their feel and timing and their signals off. Now, you'll say, well, hey, Farrells, that doesn't make sense, because if my horse stops fast, then I get dashboarded. Again, weakness, overcompensation, maybe your nervous system's not keeping up with the signals, different things like that. So let's talk about the hind end for a minute. Let's talk about the hind leg contacted the ground. Okay, so the hind leg hits the ground, your pelvis, now we're going to talk about your pelvis, it tilts forward. So as it tilts forward, and this can be a very slight movement. We've talked about pelvic tilts before here. We've also talked about pelvic tilts in our Facebook group. If you haven't joined our Facebook group, Rider's Edge Facebook group, then go over there and check it out. We have some live videos about that. We will be bringing you some more exercise type videos this fall. But the pelvis will tilt forward through that contact. And as the hind leg swings through, there is a posterior pelvic tilt. So every single step, your pelvis is tilting forward and back, forward and back. If you're sitting here confused and you're like, Farrells, you just talked about the trunk. I got those examples. Heck, what about the pelvis? Well, your pelvis moves independently from your low back. It moves independently from your trunk. So you can, as your pelvis moves anteriorly, it will drop your back. So you'll get, as an anterior tilt, if you're standing, you'll get that kind of beer belly posture. If you think about having a beer belly and real sway back, that's an anterior pelvic tilt. On the converse, a posterior pelvic tilt, if you're just standing there and you flatten your back out, then you're kind of sucking, you're getting that kind of C shape through your abdomen. Your abs can be kind of sucking in, but your pelvis is flattening out. You can have a flat back all the way up to an arched back, like a cat. So that's happening at the pelvis. It's moving forward and back, forward and back. Now, as the horse laterally shifts its weight, because we do not move in one dimension. Nothing is one-dimensional when it comes to movement. Lateral shifting of the weight as the horse shifts from side to side, that causes lateral displacement of our body. So we have our pelvis moving, we have our trunk moving, and then we have our whole body going side to side, side to side, with the horse moving through spinal flexion extension, just as we're moving four-dimensionally. Our horses are too. Their spine is flexing and extending, just like I talked about ours doing that. As that is happening, that is causing vertical displacement of our bodies. So we're going up and down like a pogo stick in space. Now, if you think about horses' gait and conformation and what we consider ideal, which changes per breed standards, but if we're sitting here talking, I come from a quarter horse background. Quarter horses, paints, Appaloosas, those kind of Western more performance horses kind of have the same smoother gait ideals in their breed standards. So a horse that is choppy, comes down real quick, can cause a lot more vertical displacement of the body. In the performance horse world, typically not very desirable, with the exception of maybe the timed events, as that doesn't matter as long as they're quick. So the horse also has lateral bending of the pelvis. You see that all the time if you watch a horse walk from behind, as their pelvis shifts side to side. That causes pelvic rotation in the rider. And so that pelvic rotation is, if you imagine the front of your hip bones curving around towards towards your midline, towards your middle. So, conversely, rotation of the horse's pelvis causes a lateral tilt. That is the side-to-side motion like you often see when a woman wears high heels, or if a girl's really trying to pick up somebody at the bar and really causing some hip action, you'll see that. That is, in more sophisticated medical terms, that's called a pelvic lateral tilt. So if you want some lame PT jokes at the bar, go, man, that girl's got a nice lateral pelvic tilt. There is your lame PT joke for this week. So, all that to just try to paint a picture of how many things are going on. And if you break down the biomechanical influences of the horse on the rider, with taking the opposite influence of the rider on the horse, because we do know that riders affect horses' movement patterns, and sometimes it's something so subtle that it's not caught, because it's not displeasing to the eye if we're in a judged event. It's not causing a major issue of performance in a timed event. However, over time, over build-up, it can lead to soundness issues, or be a contributing factor to soundness issues. So all of that to say, what we do with horses is amazing, that we get done what we get done. This is just a small fraction of everything that happens in the span of a ride. This is just the biomechanical influences. All of your body movement and changes and displacements in space are very taxing to your nervous system, your sensory systems. That's why if you are someone who has a vestibular issue or an inner ear issue, if you're having acute symptoms or flare up there, riding is very taxing, or you may not even be able to do it at that time. Conversely, it may be something that really helps you with those symptoms. So that's just a small piece of how much is going on. It is amazing that we are able to accomplish what we do, and we keep looking to be faster, stronger, bigger, better, quicker all the time, as we continue to have tougher competition, tighter competition, improved horsemanship techniques, improved training techniques. It's just a wonder that we get done what we get done all the time. So I hope that helps open your eyes and just think about riding and movement in a little bit of a different way. We will talk about these biomechanical influences again and throughout several different podcasts as they come up with different topics. So, I hope you enjoyed today's conversation, and it was enlightening and maybe thought-provoking on what's going on in your current situation. If you feel like you are having some issues, or if this brings up more specific questions for you, feel free to contact us at our website, ridersedgetherapy.com, to set up a consult. We do video consults and phone consults also. So if you're having a specific issue you would like to address, send us a message, and we'll start seeing how we can help you. So until next time, I will, as always, see you down the road. Thank you for listening to the Rider's Edge podcast today. We appreciate your time and attention. Thank you for always helping us move the conversation forward. If you liked today's podcast, please help us keep the conversations going by subscribing to this podcast and consider leaving us a review so others can find us and join in on the conversations. You can also find more information by checking us out on our social media channels, including Facebook at Writer's Edge Therapy and Wellness, Instagram at Writer's Edge Therapy, and our website, www.writersedgetherapy.com. It is there that you can book a consult for either you or your horse. Thank you, and as always, we will see you down the road.